Hey guys, so I'm recording this from a family member's home. This is actually the room in which I started my channel from. So if you watch a lot of my early videos, this is the room that I used to record in. Okay, so I have a question, but I'm going to kind of couch this question within a story. Okay, so I'm gonna tell the story and then I'll go to the question. This, by the way, is related to, I guess, how this whole trend that seems to be happening in, I can't say social media because I don't follow social media, but on YouTube, where you have individuals they've stopped talking to their family, their parents, their siblings over the results of the election, but specifically people who have stopped speaking with their spouse. So that's what I'm. So here's a story. This is another dating story. The theme of my dating stories are there's usually some type of disaster. This is going to be a similar theme, but just be patient with me. It's going to lead into my question and maybe even what you could say as a point. So about 2 years ago, I meet someone on a dating site, or at least an app, not a site, but an app, right? And I never actually meet the person in person. We just talk on the phone. And I think maybe the second or third conversation on the phone, I don't know how we got into this conversation, but we start talking about people who are being canceled. And then it kind of leans into men who have done bad things to women and how they have been demonized, how they've ruined their careers, whatever. Remember, this is 2 years ago, so how it led to this, I'm not quite sure. But it was a conversation we were both actively engaged in. She was happy to have this conversation. It wasn't something that I alone pushed into this. But we start talking about Bill Cosby. Yeah. So long story short, I am kind of being, to say the very least, critical of Bill Cosby. Meanwhile, this woman who is kind of defending him, she brings up the whole issue of how the justice system goes after black men, how there's this two-tier justice system. By the way, this is a black woman. And I say, well, Bill Cosby was he's raping women, but he's raping black women as well. So not that should matter, but I point that out to her. Her first point is her first stance is saying that this how do we believe this? How do we know this is what happened? The classic, why did it take the women so long to report this? Because dozens of women have came to the same lie in her mind, and even people who tell stories about Bill Cosby who just have been warned to stay away from him. It's all a conspiracy in her mind. But then I point out the fact that he actually admitted, excuse me, to giving women drugs, I think Quaaludes, right? He actually admitted to this. So she can no longer defend that or say that didn't happen. But then she says, well, Quaaludes were the marijuana of their time, implying that people used to get together and pop Quaaludes. I'm older, but I'm not that old. I'm not old enough to remember when people were just doing ludes like that. But I told her, I'm like, Quaaludes were never the marijuana of their time. They were always Quaaludes. Marijuana has always been the marijuana of its time. What are you talking about? So long story short, after this kind of a heated conversation, I end up ending the conversation. I have nothing to say to this woman. And it really isn't even just that conversation. And it's not because she disagreed with me. It was, and this is the thing, because I told people after this, and some people say, well, you're going to let one thing end a conversation with someone, and you're going to let one disagreement keep you from getting to know someone better. And you're going to be angry because they don't agree with you. And that's not what was happening. Well, one, the issue we're talking about is sexual assault. To me, to denounce any type of person who hurts other people in that way, it's a moral imperative. We don't have a choice with that. But it's not just that, it's just what that view that she took with the nature of the conversation, what it implies, and what I can kind of extrapolate what her views would be with other things. The fact is, before I ever met this person, this thing came up. So here is my question to people. So I'm going on YouTube and type in Trump FAFO. And one thing that comes up is all of these people who are talking about how they're no longer talking to family members. You didn't ask for your parents. You didn't ask for your siblings. I understand that. But the thing I don't get are people who have ended relationships with their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their people who are getting divorced. Now, I understand why they're doing it, but I'm understanding, how did you form this deep relationship with this person and it never came up that those were their views? And my question is, because the reason I bring up, before I ever met this person, and this is not the first time something like this happened, I get to know somebody well enough to know how they sit with certain things. So the thing I would like to know is, when people are getting to know other people and they're getting engaged and they're marrying them, what are you doing to get to know these people in this process? Like, how do you marry someone and not realize that they're going to vote? If you're someone, you're someone on the left, that they're willing to vote for someone who has admitted sexual assault, if that's the thing that bothers you. If you don't care about it, then that's fine. If you don't care that he goes around and demonizes the disabled, immigrants, people of color, he's a misogynist, he's a transphobe, if you don't mind those things, that's fine. But if you're that passionate about those things, how are you getting to the stages where you're marrying people and you never realize that they had similar views? What conversations are you having? And this isn't me. This is not a rhetorical question. I'm being serious, because look, I'm about to be 45 and I've never been married. So these people who've been with their partners for so many years and they're just realizing this and now they're divorcing them. Hey, at least you got married. So I guess with the exception of that, you were doing something right that I've been doing wrong, maybe.